Hello, my friend, and welcome to Something for Everybody. My name is Aaron Machbitz, and today is a solo episode of the podcast where I'm discussing the sexual abuse of Jewish women, Zionism, and anti-Semitism. So let's jump right in. Here is an account from a male rape survivor of October 7th. Here's a quote from him from Israel's Channel 12 News. They pin you to the ground. You try to resist. They take off your clothes, laugh at you, humiliate you, spit on you. They touched parts. They rape you. There's a circle of laugh, and you don't know what to do in the moment, whether you should resist or let it pass or how to deal with the situation. There was a very difficult rape. It was a very tough moment. Weakness in the entire body, as if your blood is cheap. They're wildly intoxicated, celebrating, laughing with their pistols, with their knives. You disassociate yourself from the situation, but on the other hand, experience it very strongly, very difficult. Again, that's from a male rape survivor of October 7th who has recently come forward. So now let's deconstruct some bogus arguments from October 7th, Hamas, and the sexual violence being committed. So one, Hamas couldn't have raped Israeli women on October 7th because there wouldn't have been time to rape in such a chaotic fighting environment. Okay, let's dismantle that bogus argument. Anyone familiar with the history of warfare knows this is an absurd argument. Rape has been used as a weapon of war for as long as war has existed. In many cases, it took hours and hours for the Israeli military to reach the southern Israel communities and disarm Hamas and other Palestinian terrorists. The terrorists had plenty of time to subject Israeli women and even men to sexual violence. Number two, Hamas are pious Muslims, so they wouldn't rape anyone. Firstly, anyone can be a rapist regardless of their religious views. Second, Islamic terrorists have long utilized rape as a tool of war and genocide, as they did during Yazidi genocide between 2014 and 2017, when ISIS sold over 6,400 Yazidi women and girls into sexual slavery. Hamas own patrons, the Islamic Republic of Iran, has used rape of female detainees in its campaign to crush the women life freedom movement. Number three, the oppressors rape the oppressed, not the other way around. The view of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict exclusively through the oppressor versus oppressed dichotomy is myopic, to say the least. But regardless, this is also not true. Towards the end of World War II, for example, millions of German women were raped by the Allied forces and freed forced laborers from countries such as Poland. There is no evidence of rape on October 7th. There is extensive evidence ranging from extensive eyewitness testimonies, perpetrator confessions, digital footage such as photographs and videos, survivor testimonies from a gang rape victim which has not been released to the public for their protection, and forensic evidence, including bodies that reached the morgue with bloody pelvic regions, genital mutilation, broken pelvises, semen, and more. International forensic pathologists have verified much of this evidence. The unfortunate truth of this whole thing, the unfortunate truth is that sexual violence has been weaponized against Jews and Jewish women, and girls in particular, for thousands of years. We have all heard that the feminists call on male sexual violence against women. Believe all women. But where was all the solidarity? Where was all the sympathy? Where is all the solidarity? Where is all the sympathy or even belief when the women were Jews? The belief evaporates. The belief evaporates. Yet the sympathy of so many people since October 7th has not been on the side of the victims, but on the side of the perpetrators. Too many people mistake the victim for the oppressor, the underdog for the overdog, and those who fight terrorism with those who dream of it and bring up their children to love it from the cradle. Consider this. In every European capital, as well as in America, photographs of Israeli hostages still in captivity by Hamas have been put up. And in every city, Outside of Israel, they have been torn down. Think about that for a moment. If someone in London or Paris or America or any city loses their dog, they will put up a poster asking people to help find them. And even if one person in our society went around tearing down such poster, we would have asked, what happened to our society? We would ask why we're producing people so pathological. We want to find this person and punish them. Yet, when the missing people are Jewish children, Jewish women, or Jewish men, because again, there's no crime for being a man, these posters are torn down. It was Hamas that started this war, yet much of the world has forgotten this. They have been fooled by Hamas propaganda into imagining that Israel is the aggressor. The war would be over tomorrow, not just if Hamas returned the Jewish hostages, but if the Palestinians in Gaza brought up their children not to hate, but to love, not to aspire to a death cult, but to join Israel in a belief in life, not to believe in destroying a state, but to put their energies into building. Before October 7th, I certainly could have said that anti-Zionism is quite distinct from anti-Semitism. After October 7th, I don't think there's any meaningful difference. But anyone who's arguing that Israel shouldn't be a Jewish state at this point is clearly betraying, if not an outright hatred of Jews, such moral confusion about what happened on October 7th and about the risks to Israel, not just as a nation state, but the actual inhabitants and the people, the existential risk to them posed by Hamas and Hezbollah and the Islamic Republic of Iran. Anyone who is arguing that Israel shouldn't exist as a Jewish state at this point is out of touch with what happened there and with many millions upon millions of people who really do hate Jews want to have that happen between the river and the sea. So as to render any semantic distinction there, I think morally confused, it's not important to make this distinction. The thing to acknowledge is that all these people who are calling into questions the legitimacy of the state of Israel and the legitimacy of its fighting its own survival against antagonists that really do mean to perpetrate genocide, these people are not engaging with the actual moral terrain. It seems to me that the thing that most people don't understand here, the justification for the state of Israel, certainly post-October 7th, which was a direct echo of the multi-century history of pogroms and the direct echo of the Holocaust. I mean, this was not normal violence. And the Jewish people can be forgiven, frankly. We can be forgiven, frankly, for perceiving a threat that most other identifiable groups could not even imagine feeling. And the Jewish people can also be forgiven for not having the patience to split hairs about the motivations of people who are blocking synagogues in Los Angeles and beating people up who try to enter. And are these people really anti-Semitic? Or are they just anti-Zionist? Are these people who are holding Jews in Los Angeles responsible for policies of foreign country in Israel? Is this anti-Semitism? Or is it just really passionate anti-Zionism? The stupidity on display by people who can't figure out the difference between what Hamas did on October 7th and what the IDF has done in fighting Hamas, which again is using its own population as human shields, which is still, again, at this moment I'm recording, holding American hostages. Now, each era has its own anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is famously a shape-shifting virus. Sometimes in the past, people hated Jews for their religion. Then you couldn't hate people for their religion. Some people hated the Jews for their race. Then you weren't allowed to hate people for their race anymore. You could hate the Jews for having and defending a state. This is the eternal challenge of the Jewish people. Gregor von Ristori, among others, showed us this. It's their challenge to be hated for being poor or for being rich, for being integrated or for not being integrated, for being stateless. Remember, rootless cosmopolitans also hated them for having a state, us Jews. But this is not the only challenge for the Jews. It's a challenge for all of us. As Vasily Grossman wrote in the dead center of his masterpiece, Life and Fate, and I quote, "Anti-Semitism is always a means rather than an end. It is a measure of contradictions yet to be resolved. It is a mirror for the fallings of individuals, social structures, and state systems. Tell me what you accuse the Jews of, and I'll tell you what you're guilty of." Thank you for Douglas Murray and for Sam Harris for their insights and more clarity on this issue. And thank you for tuning into another episode. Please share this with a friend, and I'll see you guys next time. Lots of love. Cheers. Thank you very much for tuning into that episode. And if you enjoyed it, click right here for another full-length episode of the podcast. And please don't forget to subscribe. But most importantly, above all else, please take good care of yourselves and others. And I'll see you next time. Lots of love. Cheers.